they're playing out because you and I know there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes right now. There's things that have happened already that we can't even talk about, but things are in a positive position. Mm. There's a lot of panic setting in right now about what should I do with my money.
Mm. All the time.
I took the wise step, like you guys did, to take my money out of the banking system and put it into gold and silver. That's what I've done. I'm very happy with that decision. This isn't financial advice, as James will tell you. This is just experience from an old man, not quite as old as the other old man, but old. But that's what I did. And on top of that, there's 2 members of our team this week who've just suddenly had their bank accounts closed, and the money is being withheld at the moment because they have to do compliance first, which we know is a lie. So they've closed the account and they'll hold on to it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months, who knows? Depends as long as they need it. Because for anybody that runs a business, and I've run a few in my life, the biggest reason that small businesses go bankrupt is one word. It's called cash flow. Not to do with lack of orders. Most small businesses have plenty of orders. They have a lack of cash flow. And what good business people tend to do is hold money as long as they can and pay as late as they can, so they've got cash flow. So instead of having 30 days to pay an invoice, they ask for 45 or 60 or sometimes 90 days. It gives them cash flow. And right now, the banks have no cash flow. So the banks are going to hold on to your money for as long as they possibly can. Sure. And they're also, and legally able to do so, they're legally able to spend your money that's in there. What you thought was your savings. It's not actually your savings anymore. It belongs to them, and they can spend it. And you'll be really pleased to know they can spend your pension too.
Charlie, they're not getting any new printed notes from the central bank. They're not receiving any, and that means that their source is cut off.
It is. It's completely cut off. And I was watching yesterday the argument that the Democrats are having with the Republicans, where the Republicans are saying, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling. We're not going to do it. And the Republicans are saying, well, that's like spending money on your credit card and then not paying it back. I mean, their argument is unbelievable. It's absolutely crazy. These people, and Simon knows more than I do, that politicians generally don't have a clue about money because it's not their money. And the way I make it simple so that you understand this, if you or I walk into a casino, which I have done, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I have done, and I'm spending my money, I'm very, very cautious. That's me. But if somebody gives me free money, and I've been to casinos where they've given me free money, I don't give a shit. And that's very much like most politicians in the world. It's not their money. They don't give a shit.
Charlie, when they were debating this issue, the Democrats decided they would filibuster. And it's absolutely shocking what they decided to filibuster on, and that was the oath of allegiance. So literally, before you start, you have to raise your hand and say, I swear by God. And so they held it up by refusing to swear the oath of allegiance. I had to think of all the things to hold up debate in an elected chamber to refuse to swear. I mean, that's just, if anybody still doesn't understand what's going on, having known that in America, then I give up for them.
It's funny, Charlie. I know we've not told you what we're going to talk about today.
That's why I was laughing to myself.
But you pretty much hit, even on some analogies that we've come up with, you've hit on pretty much every one of them. But as you were talking, I was thinking, have we told you what we're talking about today? But
I was thinking the same.
You know what it says to me? It says that
frequency.
We are all literally on the same wavelength. And once you've seen these things, you can never unsee them. And I think a lot of people are so busy, they're on that hamster wheel, and that's how how their people want them to be kept. They want the
it's been designed.
Yeah, they just want them on that hamster wheel, and they've not, without enough brain space and time and energy to even put their head up and just go, what is actually going on? And I think that's where we all come in, is that we're the voice that says, hang on a minute, we've seen what's actually going on, and people might not have the time or the brain space or whatever to look for themselves, but it's for us to then put that message out there and say, hey, I know you've kept busy, but just have a look at this for 2 minutes and just see what you think. And it literally the exact same things that we're talking about, down to the point you'll see in a second.
Okay.
So, right, I'll share this with you. So look,
you'll see from the title, won't you?
Yeah. For us, we've actually called this video "Stop Gambling Your Future in the Retirement Casino."
Yeah.
So you've already talked about casinos already. And this is how we see things. Again, just our opinion, but please do your own research. I'm sure you'll see the same. When you take your retirement and you give it to a retirement company, it is like giving your money to a casino. Okay. They all set the rules, and they have a slight advantage over every transaction and everything that you gamble. They have a slight edge, a slight advantage. And what they know is, if they push enough people through that system, that they win. They don't need to have a massive edge. Think about Vegas. All those extravagant buildings, those lights, it's all kind of, very, very elaborate. Who pays for that? Who pays for all of that? It's not because casinos are very kind and they say, oh, come and gamble at our casino, and more people win than lose. That is paid for by losers' money. Let's put it that way. And I think the phrase, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, was actually about your money. What you gamble in Vegas actually stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it goes on to perpetuate more buildings and more extravagance and all this kind of stuff. So retirement companies are the same. Retirement companies are huge. They advertise in every media all around the world. They're kind of in bed with the government. They're kind of all seeing these huge Goliath companies. Again, why? Why are they so big? How can they afford all of this? Is it because people are putting their retirement money with them and they're actually giving out more than they're getting? Absolutely not. They're like the casinos. They know that they have the slight edge, that if they push enough people through that system, that they win. But rather than like the casinos gambling with your money and gambling on the game, with retirement companies, they're actually gambling on your life. And the gamble is that they have a lot of very clever statisticians that have worked out how long people are going to live in certain industries. They know your job, they know all about you, and they know that you give your money to them. They then tell you how much they're going to give you in retirement, and the gamble for them is that you die before you get it all back. That's the reality of it. Now, some people will live over that and they'll get more than they put in, but it's very few. And again, they only need a slight edge, very, very slight edge. If they push enough people through the system, if you win at a game 51% of the time, and you play that game enough times, you will win over the large numbers. And this is what retirement companies do. They know when you're going to live till. They know how the numbers work. Yeah. Worse than a casino. Let's say you go to a casino, you've got your money, you take it in. When you win, you can actually take all of it with you, and you can do what you want with it.
You've got full control over it, haven't you? Yeah. Full control. Once you've won it, yeah.
And I'd never thought we'd put casinos in that kind of nice light, that you have full control over your winnings. But with a pension, you contribute every month. You can't touch it until you're a certain age, and then when you can touch it, it's in set distributions that the company and the government, who are in bed together, decide. The big red flag for us is when you put let's say you put cash in a bank account, and the government say you've got deposit protection insurance. So we'll, in the UK they say we'll guarantee £85,000. In the US maybe $100,000, and that for us is a huge red flag, because they're giving you something for free. When they're making it that easy, there's a reason, because they benefit at the other side.
As you said, Charlie, yeah.
When the government say, if you put your money contribute to your pension, to your retirement account, and we'll defer the tax, there's an incentive, there's a reason, because they're getting something at the other end. So for us, we just think it is an actual gamble when you're putting your retirement with these companies, and that they have the edge. They wrote the rules of the game. Imagine playing a game where with someone that wrote the rules, and they know it inside out, and you don't know the rules. They make it complicated. They say, look, give your money to us. It's too complicated for you to invest your own money. Give it to us. We're the experts. Like you say, Charlie, if it's your money, you'll look after it way more than anyone else will. And if it's someone else's money,
yeah, exactly.
I
remember us in the sergeant's mess, Adam, in the sergeant's mess, all arguing how our pensions worked, and we had loggerheads all the time, bashing our heads together, trying to work out the pension. It's a nightmare, and that's why people don't like looking at it, because it's complicated.
I was going to call you before this show, actually, but I've been so busy I haven't had the opportunity, and I was going to ask you to put a graph together, because I took my money out of the banking system 3 years ago. And it would be very interesting to see over the last 3 years, with just the growth of gold, and also with your switching in 3 years, what the difference is between the money I put into gold, the money I put into silver, and what happened just leaving it there and also switching. Because I can assure you one thing is 1,000,000% sure, I've got more gold and silver now than I would have, than the interest I would have had I've left it in a pension or a bank.
For sure.
A lot more.
We can do those numbers. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
No problem.
We'll do that. And we'll put it together.
Do that.
The other thing,
it'll be a visual for everyone to see.
Yeah. The other
just
thing
in
that
3 years.
We should mention that currently switching is not available in the US, but it will be very soon. We're working really, really hard to make that happen, and we're making really good progress. So we'll let you know when that's available. So look, the whole system for us of having your retirement with these big companies, it just, when you see behind the curtain, it's not in your favor. Here's the second problem: the population myth. And again, please do your own research on this. Here's what we're all told: there's too many people on the planet, and it's overcrowded. In actual fact, when you look into it, there's not enough people on the planet. Okay, that might be against everything you've ever heard, but think about it like this: with retirement, imagine it's this big pot, and you've got contributors and receivers. Well, the receivers are people at the other end that are taking their pension. They're actually taken out of the pot. Those people are living longer, and we're living in an aging population. So there's a lot of people, like the baby boomers, that whole generation, that there was a lot of people were having a lot of children. So it's a big number. As countries become more and more wealthy, generally speaking, people have less children. You can see that across all nations and societies. People have less children. So as countries become more developed, women want careers, they want more education, and also the cost of living gets more and more expensive, and people have less children. So what that means is the amount of people contributing to that retirement pot goes down. Because people have less children, that's less people going into the workforce. So you end up with this kind of upside down triangle where less people are funding more people. And over time, what does that do? Well, it just reduces the pot. It has to. Japan are facing this now. They've actually come out and said, we need to do something now. Otherwise, we're going to be in a real mess in the future. And it's been like that for around 10 years. That they've known that this is coming, and they're not having enough people putting in. They're having more people taken out. So across the world, you can see that the fertility rate, I'll show you here. This is historic data, present data, and then forecasted data. You can see in all areas of the world, the trend is the same. It's down and to the right. It's all tending towards around 2, something like that. For the population to be sustainable, each woman needs to have 2.1 children on average to be sustainable. That's what has to happen. I think currently in the UK it's around 2.3, something like that. In Japan they're in a real mess. So think about your pension, your retirement. Your retirement account is dependent on this whole system being sustainable, and we know that it isn't. As countries become more wealthy, there's less people putting in. The other thing is that this is a huge cultural shift to turn around. If you think, let's say we decided today, yeah, there's an incentive for women to have more children. Fine. It's going to take 25 years, really, for those children to enter the workforce. So there's a huge delay before that's going to happen. If it ever happens to the degree that we need it to. So for us, this is just a really big, maybe a longer term problem, but something that we wouldn't want to gamble our retirement on, that the system can keep itself going. It's really worrying. Plus, think about contributors. With the cost of living crisis, people are struggling. They're putting their money into their future for retirement might be an optional thing at the moment. If you're struggling to feed your family today, why even bother putting money into your future if you can't get through today? What does that do? It puts more strain on the contributors and more strain on that pot. This is
quite interesting what you said about nappies, Adam, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. I'm going to butcher the numbers. I can't remember exactly, but one study looked at the number of adult diapers, nappies, that are being used or purchased compared to the number of children's nappies or diapers. And
adults, you mean? Adults, you mean?
Adults to children, yeah. So the number of adults versus the number of children. And it's not a 100% conclusive stat, but it shows you that the aging population compared to the number of children being born, and it gives you some indication of what's happening. Again, when we talk about this stuff, we never just rely on one piece of information. It's about stacking the probabilities in your favor. And that's just one thing that we looked at and thought, The third thing is exactly what you've said, Charlie. You've hit on most of these points before we even said them, is the US debt ceiling. When you put your money into a retirement account with, send it to Wall Street, because these guys know, they know more than we do, then the performance of the stock market is an indication of the country's economy and how wealthy the country is. Well, if the country defaults on its debt, that downgrades the country. It makes debt more expensive for that country. That debt and that expense goes on to every man, woman, and child in that country, and it means that the stock market, the health of the country, is going to suffer. So you've got to play these out a few steps ahead. Now, look, the debt ceiling might be raised, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But the fact that it's coming into question is worrying. I mean, the debt ceiling in the US has been raised over 80 times. Can it be raised indefinitely? It might not be this time, it might not be next time. But why would you put your retirement in the crosshairs of something that is so fragile? The fragility of it is the worrying thing for us. And it's these factors that we think, look, you're vulnerable. You're just vulnerable. You are. From the system that's set up, where the house always wins, you've got the aging population and there's less people putting in. And then you've got the debt ceiling that might be raised, might not be raised, and it's causing all sorts of questions and uncertainty. Now, it would be wrong for us to give you all that without a solution. And we love gold and silver. We do. We're unashamed about it because it's done so much for us. Why would we not share it? Why would we not? If you're in the US, you have a unique opportunity to move your retirement account, your 401k, IRA into metals. You can do it, and you can take yourself outside the system. These are the reasons why we think gold serves that purpose and solves that problem. Well, the first thing is you're in control. You're not giving it to someone that's going to tell you what you can and can't do with it. You are in control. And control is the number one reason we buy metals for ourselves, before anything else, before growth or anything else. Control. The other thing is you have full access. With your retirement account, you don't. You can't access it in the same way. It's outside of the system. It's outside of this casino system that is not, the odds are not stacked in your favor. It's not about the company working out when you're going to live to and working out what you can have and when you can have it. It's about you being controlled. You're outside of that casino system. And I mean, that makes me breathe a breath of fresh air straight away, a sigh of relief that you're outside of all of that mess. Like we said, yeah, not casino environment, a huge thing. And you're not reliant on others to keep contributing. So again, you solve that problem. And the other thing is, when we talk about history, historically, those that have owned metals have thrived. They just have. And I know we're banging the same drum here, but there's so many people that have heard this or heard parts of what we've got to say and haven't done anything. And we just urge you to do something to protect your future and the future of your loved ones. Because you've got the opportunity and you can do something about it. So we just urge you to do something, explore the option, chat to us if you want to chat to us. And I think we see ourselves really as translators more than anything. We're translating something that is projected as being complicated and just putting it into normal terminology that everyday people can understand and do something with, because we're just normal. We're not, we don't have degrees and letters after our name and all this kind of stuff. We just we've just seen how the system works, and we want to bring that to you.
And our brothers and sisters over the water in the US can do this a lot easier than the rest of the world. It's set up for them.
Really easy. Really easy.
If we try to do it over here, good luck. It's hard work. Hard work in the UK, isn't it? And you can only buy gold. You can't buy any silver. It's just gold. You have to set up a SIP, and it's very complicated.
That's one thing I would say the US government have done right, is they've enabled people to do what they want with their retirement accounts. In the UK, really difficult. No one wants to touch it. Australia's the same. You can do bits with that if you self-manage and do different things. But the US, like we talk about switching, outside the US, you can switch, and we think you should. Inside the US, you can move your retirement account, and we think you should, if you want to, and it's right for you.
No, but it's so true that people don't understand the value it gives to you to have control over your destiny, control over your assets. And I would plead with everybody to consider this, because we know what's going on behind the scenes. We know that the banks are going to collapse. We know that. And people keep saying to me, well, what should I do, Charlie? Well, I'm not a financial advisor, but I know what I've done. I've taken responsibility for my savings, and I've put it into gold and silver, physical, not paper, physical. That was my choice. And I feel very happy with that choice. It happens as a complete bonus. I would be very happy if 3 years later, I still had exactly what I had 3 years ago.
Same.
I'm very happy with that.
Absolutely.
But as a bonus, I'm 30% better off than I was 3 years ago. That's a reality. It's a bonus. And
I know. Sorry, Charlie. I know that Adam and James were talking about the debt ceilings happened many times before, but I think this is different. I think you've got a Republican-controlled Congress that is all out to make a big issue. Now they're talking about this hanging in June. I think that the damage it will do to the banks with this infighting carrying on longer and longer and longer will have a huge detrimental effect on anybody's paper money. So I don't think we should just look on this as just yet another battle between the Republicans.
Yeah. Really good point.
A very different scenario. So I really think it's a wake-up call. And if anyone is dithering about whether to try the gold and silver, I think this is the time to do it. I really do, because I think Republicans are not going to back down.
I think just to add to that, Simon, last time there was a question over whether the debt ceiling should be increased. The stock market dipped by quite a lot. And that the debt ceiling was raised in the end, but even the fact that there was a question about it, there was uncertainty, people get fearful. And I think, look, here's the situation that I see it. Put it really simply: do they not raise the debt ceiling, and then the country defaults, and that has its whole mess that comes with it, or do they pay a credit card off with another credit card and put more debt on the nation and every man, woman, and child, and all the mess that brings? I don't think there's a good scenario. It's about picking this mess or this mess, and that worries me. I don't think there's a really good option. I think there's delaying or
not out of the options you put forward. That's exactly what they've always done. They've just created more debt to kick the can down the road.
Exactly.
I think the road is now a one-end street. I think that's the end of it.
I have to be very, very careful what I say here. Very careful. But you'll have to read between the lines on what we've just discussed. What I will say is the good guys will not take down the bad guys. The bad guys will take themselves down. And this is what we'll see. We will see the Federal Reserve, the IRS, the Inland Revenue, will see them all take themselves down. They won't need any pushing. They won't need any shoving. They're doing it all by themselves. And the debt ceiling is just another tool, like a mallet, that will whack them over the head.
Charlie, you were 100% right. What that also means is for people who are not taking a strong position, when that happens, they will suffer because they didn't listen, they didn't look, they didn't do something about it. So they will implode, but in doing so, Charlie, I think they'll take the Western economies with them.
Yeah, and I can assure you that everybody here on this screen is trying to help you.
Yeah,
we won't force you to do it. It's your choice. We've learned the hard way, all of us.
Yeah,
and we're grateful that we've actually listened to the advice, because the advice has been beneficial to all four of us.
Charlie, in 1923. During the height of the hyperinflation in Germany.
That's when you were born, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was well before then, Charlie. when you crashed the Ark on Mount Ararat. I was reading, a bit of a student of history, as you might know, and well documented in 1923 during the hyperinflation in Germany, that you would go to a cafe, you would order a coffee and a biscuit or a cookie, and then 20 minutes later, the bill was twice what it said on the chalkboard, because in the 20 minutes you've been there, inflation has so damaged, price has gone up. And that's historical. That's happened. And unless people are very careful, this is going to happen again to a country near you.
It will, and they used to encourage people to pay when they ordered, so they could lock in the price.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's a whole nother element, isn't it, that I don't think people are even thinking about. I think, look, just do what you can. And I think make it simple. Hopefully we've made it simple enough that you can do some things. I think complexity is the enemy of execution. If it's complicated, you won't do anything. So just start one step at a time and build some momentum as you go.
And don't be a statistic in the adult nappy business.
Yeah. Hopefully.
No, or be a blind driver of the Ark. How are your eyes doing, Charlie?
Is that Simon talking?
Oh yes. Bless him. Oh. We have fun. We have a message, but we have fun because I don't want to get people depressed and down.
Yeah.
I want people to be strong, but honestly, I think this is the most serious one we've ever done.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what's just about to tip over, in the Western world, I think it's quite serious, guys. I really do.
Sure. Yeah. Please protect yourselves. Do something.
Yep. Very, very important. But thank you very much, guys. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charlie. Cheers, Simon.
Bye.
Always do.
Cheers, guys.
You take care, both.